Are we recording? Is this thing on?
Yes, it is. Welcome to RevOps 500, where we invite the world's top marketers to answer the tough questions facing growing organizations.
Ooh, sounds important.
I'm Sajeel Qureshi.
And I'm Gil Pei. Join us as we dive deep into the world of RevOps.
We'll be learning strategies and expertise from first-hand experience. RevOps 500 is sponsored by Computan. They provide technical and development expertise to growth-focused marketing.
Let's get started.
Hey everybody, Sajeel Qureshi here with another episode of RevOps 500, where we interview some of the world's greatest B2B marketers. Today, I can't tell you how honored and excited I am to be talking to an old colleague, an old friend. He's a force to be reckoned with for sure. He's a skilled and passionate communicator. He's a results-driven guy. I like to call him the MacGyver of revenue. Right now, he's the Chief Revenue Officer of TrueFort. Scott Schneider, welcome to RevOps 500, man.
Hey, thanks, Sajeel. That's a very kind introduction there, probably more than I deserve, but thanks a lot. I'm looking forward to our session today.
Yeah, same, Scott. So anyways, let's just jump right into it. So Scott, what is one RevOps myth that you can share with everybody here?
A RevOps myth. I hear people talking about that a RevOps person is this, mathematician and data analyst. And I have actually had a different experience. I think that's a myth because I think that a great RevOps person, which we actually have here at TrueFort, his name is Phil. He reports into me, and I couldn't do my job without him. He discovers marketing and pipeline and customer success trends like a good RevOps person should. And he's, he can also be sort of a data analyst with a quota, if you will. But really what he does is he finds creative strategies to optimize our go-to-market. And he finds, incredible insights for me that says, did you know that this stage in our sales process is, 71% made up of financial services companies. And they've got some new regulations that are about to hit them that we can solve for them. And I think we ought to, generate a marketing campaign. So Phil's amazing. But I think that's one of the myths of RevOps.
So it sounds like, from what you're talking about, you're describing what Bill does. I mean, like, it's almost like, he's using analytics and statistics to basically, drive revenue for the company.
He is. Yeah. And he's really amazing. And what's great is sometimes I'll get a call from him and he just says, man, you're not going to believe what I just discovered, and so it's really critical for me to have that data, but he's also very creative. So it's not just the data. He also is hunch driven and experience driven. So it's a really important role in our firm.
So it's almost like, you need that person to not only understand the statistics and the numbers, but also understand what that means in terms of actually what's happening on the ground, like with people, business, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, just having that understanding that, our mission statement for my revenue team is pretty simple. We create predictable revenue to drive shareholder value. That's what we do. It's what we do all day, every day. If someone asks, what do we do? And Phil really is part of that ethos. He gets that we're trying to, always create predictable revenue. We're all shareholders of the firm, as are, our investors and our board directors. And that's why we're here. And if we're doing all the other things great, if we're building beautiful products and having great marketing campaigns and all these other things, if we're not realizing a growth in ARR, then we're doing a lot of things wrong.
So let's talk about that then. I mean, so you have a team here, obviously. I mean, it's also a very technical process. Where you drive it, managing RevOps, managing building predictable revenue is a very technical process as well. So what are some of the things that keep you up at night technically? I mean, is there anything that you can kind of jam with us about, or?
Yeah, look, I think the segment of cyber that we're in is not readily understood. There's not a lot of common definitions. Even some of the main sort of products that we sell or solutions that we deliver. Many times when we're speaking with a prospect, they may not completely understand exactly what microsegmentation is, how they gain value from it. And so we're constantly, what keeps me up at night is complexity. Maybe that's because I'm a Texas guy and I just want to be simple. I don't know, but I love simplicity and I love We have an amazing SE team that can go as technically, deep as anyone wants to go. And that's always at our seller side. I want our seller, and I would say we're pretty good at this and emerging to be very, very high level and let the listener choose their learning journey. Don't start at the bottom and go up, start at the top. We help you with containment. We're in the containment era. It was prevention, it was detection, now it's containment. And setting that context is a great thing. It allows our prospects to choose how technical they want to get. So I would say complexity is what keeps me up.
So the fact that, it's a very complex environment that you're in, and you need to kind of, simplify it more or less. Yes.
Yeah, you've got to be able to communicate it at a high level. You've probably heard this before, but if your grandmother says, Sajeel, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
You have to answer her one way.
Yeah.
If your friend who is a fireman said, hey, Sajeel, what do you do? You have to answer him a different way. If your friend who's in tech, but not in cyber, asks you, what do you do? Now you can get a little deeper. If your friend who is a cyber, has been in cyber for 20 years, hey, what do you guys do? That's a completely different answer. But you know all those people, Sajeel, and you know what their technical competency is and how to deliver the right message to the right audience at the right time. And so I think that it's, selling in cyber is so fascinating because a few reasons. And I think this is common in most technology sales environments, is that I've never used any of the products that I've sold in 22 years. I've never been an operator. I'm selling to someone who is more technical than me, that realizes I don't use this thing. If I were selling you an iPhone, I could say, Sajeel, this thing has changed my life. It's got everything I need. I can't say that because I don't use it. So it just really, I think, requires a modern seller to be high level, to be able to communicate high level, but also be extremely technically competent. So we say competency drives the confidence to have the courage to have conviction. And if you don't have that competency, I think it's difficult to have confidence.
Yeah, and also you can't really meet people where they are when you're talking to them, right? Like you can't explain to your grandmother what TrueFort does or what any cybersecurity company does if you don't know exactly. If you don't know what they do, you can't explain to it. You can't put it in layman terms at all, layperson or whatever. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I've had in my career, you may have seen this as well, I've had some really successful sellers that don't know hardly anything about the product. Now they're very good at bringing in the team, their extended team that they know they need to communicate properly, and they recognize their weaknesses. I'm just not that guy. I want to be authentic. I want to be honest. I want to be sincere with my clients. I want to bring my personal morals to work every day. I don't want to be this nice guy on the weekends, but on Monday morning at 8:00, I'm just a jerk who lies to people. Maybe I'm just, deep into my career, and those things are important to me. And the way to do that for me is to be able to say, if you were a potential client, Sajeel, this has been a good conversation. I'm not seeing that we can solve the problem that you have. I mean, I want to say that. And maybe you say, hold on, I'm seeing something different. I think you can. Or maybe you say, I'm not either, Scott. And then we can talk about something more fascinating, like football or...
Yeah, football. I was going to say that. Yeah, exactly. So, let's talk about automation. Like, what do you think about like marketing automation in RevOps and marketing? How do you use it? Is it something you're high on, you're low on? What's your take?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question, Sajeel. And I was on the co-founding team of a third-party risk company called CyberGRX. We actually incubated at Blackstone, and our founder was the former CISO of Blackstone. And then he hired a CEO, and then who brought on, I think there was 4 of us on the co-founding team. I'm telling you that, Sajeel, because we really built an inbound strategy that was a big part of our strategy. Using HubSpot and using other tools, inbound was big. So it's difficult. It takes, we hired I would say a marketing scientist in a way that could really understand the data. And so yeah, I think building a real inbound strategy is absolutely critical to a SaaS-based, company these days. the buying process has changed so much in the last 6 to 12 years. You've got in my business, chief information security officers have multiple private Slack channels with other CISOs. And so if they're looking at TrueFort, they're just going to go into those 3 channels and ask 20, 30, 50 other CISOs, hey, have you guys had a good experience with TrueFort? Never heard of them. Or everyone says, yeah, we bought them. It was great, or it was terrible, whatever. So when they finally engage us as sellers, they know a lot. They know pricing. They can go to G2, all those things. The other thing that I'm really keen on, that I bet you are too, and I'm constantly preaching, as a matter of fact, I have a session today with our sales team to go over some strategies here, is intent. And I think intent is really vital. It's not a nice to have today in today's world. And so if I'm a seller at TrueFort and I've got 150 accounts that I'm targeting for various reasons, I think they fit in our ideal customer profile, that sort of thing. To understand the intent that they have in buying a solution, or the intent that they have around a problem we can solve, is absolutely critical, because now I can take my 150 and instead of, reaching out to them alphabetically, I can now just rank them by their intent. And if I find out that they're looking at containment strategies, why not call that person first or that company first? And so, I think marketing automation is just huge.
And so how are some ways at TrueFort that you guys measure intent?
Well, so we have multiple platforms. We use a platform called Demandbase that allows our team to upload their named accounts lists, and it just scores everything based on intent keywords that we've entered, like microsegmentation, like zero trust, like other words like that. And then we also use intent and this is happening by every seller every day. Is we're looking, has this firm ever touched our website or downloaded any content? Now, that is not an indication that they want to call back. It might be an intern doing some research or something like that. And I think we all despise the times where we go to some random site, we download a piece of content, and 5 minutes later we're getting a call that's, hey, would you like to buy? Come on, man, I'm just looking. And so we think of intent as, do they have intent around in our space? Do they have the intent around our company? And then we use other tools like LinkedIn Navigator. So I'm sure you're a LinkedIn Navigator user, but once you really, really learn how to superpower Navigator, it's great. And it's really great for the buyers as well. Our team is very experienced. As you can see, I'm no spring chicken either. And I don't have a desire to twist people's arms. I don't want to call you if you have a competitor that you love, or if you just have no energy around this thing. And you don't always know that. But I want to find out if you have intent. And so we use Zoom. Zoom Info does a good job on intent. LinkedIn Navigator does a good job. We've got a couple of other tools that we use as well. And it's all just to score each one of our prospects to understand their mission.
Got it. So intent, you use a combination of tools plus your own experience that kind of helps you measure intent in statistical ways, and also just human ways as well. So what about like the future? I mean, so where do you feel like the future of RevOps, marketing, selling, where do you see all that going?
Yeah. We talked about that a minute ago. It's really shifted a lot. I'm fortunate in that, like us all, we've all made mistakes in our life, in our professional life for sure. It was about maybe a little over 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, when I sort of recognized this shift in buying behavior and the digital economy and all those things. And I'm fortunate that I got out in front of it, because I think a lot of revenue leaders at my stage and my age are just still old schooling it, if you will. And so I'm constantly looking for new techniques. I'm looking for new technologies. I'm looking for new ways to engage with a prospect when they want to be and how they want to be engaged with. I was saying to someone, one of our SEs, I believe it was yesterday, I said, it's interesting, there's these things that are not okay in our personal life that we just do all day in our professional life, like cold calling. Like, who really enjoys a cold call? Like, no one does. Right. And I get it. There are times I've made my fair share. I'm not saying that, but like, who really likes that? Like, no one does. And I know a lot of CISOs, and they all have everyone on call block. They all have their assistant going through their emails. They all have, they're blacklisting all the vendors if they're not. And I don't blame them. I mean, otherwise they would just be on vendor calls all day. And so, but I think there's a lot of organizations and sales leaders, revenue leaders who continue these old school ways, and then continue these old school ways, Sajeel, because occasionally they work. If you make a few hundred cold calls every day, someone's going to answer the phone. Now, is that the relationship that I want to start with you, where I've called you, 7 days in a row, you haven't answered, and finally you answer the phone just to get me off your back? I mean, how is that in starting a relationship? It's terrible. We would never do that in our personal life. If you called your buddy and said, "Hey man, let's go for beers," and would you call him 5 times in a row? If he didn't, you would say, "What's up, man?" So I try to bring that sort of personal style over to the professional world. And I don't want to walk into a prospect meeting with, you being kind of upset with the deception I've already used.
I like that, Scott, where you said there's things that that are unacceptable in our personal life that we make acceptable in our professional life. That's a very,
I'm not sure why, but it happens.
So maybe the more things might change in the future, the more they'll stay the same, right? Whatever is acceptable in your personal life will probably be acceptable in your professional life, but probably not the other way around.
I don't think so. And I mean, I think there's I would say the buying environment has changed a lot. The selling environment hasn't changed so much. And I have some ideas around that. I did speak with a guy a few years ago in Denver. This was probably 3 years ago. And he built a platform. Right now, I can't think of it because I don't think it ever really, I'm not sure he even got it to market, where chief information security officers could sign up and they could say what it will cost you to get a meeting with them in the form of a donation. So they can go into this platform and they can say, "I will take 2 meetings a month, but to get that meeting, you have to give $500 to the Boy Scouts of America," or whatever their favorite charity is. And I thought that had some interesting, some ideas. But I think there's more things like that, like demo days. I think it would be great to have and I know a couple of CISOs that do this, where they just bring in, maybe 4 to 7 vendors on a day. It's sort of like a little local RSA, a conference, trade show. And they just set up, little tables for them. And it's only for their staff. And their staff can walk around and say, "Who are you? What do you do? And show me how it works." And so I think there's some brilliant ideas out there. They're just coming along slowly.
Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of RevOps 500. This podcast is a great opportunity and channel for revenue operations and much more. If you've been thinking about a podcast or you want to ship production to a friendly team, check out ringmaster.com. They're the team behind this podcast. RevOps 500 is sponsored by Computan. Computan serves as the back-end dev and technology team for shorthanded marketing agencies and departments. Shorthanded? Wait a minute, that sounds like me. Now, let's get back to it. The end.
Yeah, those are interesting. I mean, like they're just kind of taking the same ideas and turning them on their head a little bit. And man, yeah, it's cool. And then like even from a RevOps perspective, you can measure and track how effective they are and where the leads are coming from. So if you're a vendor who's investing in time to head over the TrueFort vendor day or whatever, you can attribute costs, activity, revenue to that action and all those sorts of things. So it's a interesting way of looking at it. So now let's Scott, you and I go way back. So let's talk about you a little bit here. So how did you get here? What's your career in sales marketing? What's it been like? Can you share that a little bit with our listeners?
Yeah, sure. Well, I had a bit of a different path. So I was raised in a small town in Texas. I went to a state school, and the small town that I was in was all about sports. And we graduated. I had 84 people in my graduating class. And, if you just do the math, half of those are guys and half of those are decent athletes. So we just played every sport growing up. So when I got out of college, I became a golf professional. And I tried to play professionally on some mini tours for a bit, and I was smart enough to realize I wasn't good enough. But then I became a club professional, teaching professional. And I did that for a bit. And then I, about 5 years. And then I got my first job in sales. I'm not sure if you're a golfer, for Cobra and Titleist,
Yeah.
a club, club brand and a golf ball brand. And I did that for about 5 years as well. And it was fantastic, except I just sort of topped out from an earnings perspective. And I met a former or a member of a club that I used to work at after a Dallas Stars hockey game. And he asked me what I was doing. And I told him I was working, for Titleist. And he said, "How do you like it?" I said, "Well, I'm looking to make a move so I can make more money." He said, this was in the end of 2000, maybe the fall of 2000. And he said, "Gosh, you really ought to get into software." And for some reason that resonated with me. I think we had a PC at home, but wasn't much at the time, and so I made the transition, and I was lucky enough to have a guy who's a good friend of mine now, who took a shot on me and gave me a job at McAfee, where a lot of security professionals started their career. And I did that for a few years, and I was lucky, Sajeel. The first month I almost quit because it was so complicated, coming from the golf business, where I knew everything about everything I sold. Like, I could tell you the weight of a driver head, the weight of the shaft, the weight of the grip, everything. And I got to this new company, Network Associates, and I didn't know anything. I was having a difficult time getting people to tell me. And I finally went and shadowed a couple of customers. And that was like a really light bulb moment for me. And I did well there. And then I got my start in the startup game, or the scale up game, if you will, in 2003. And I've been in that in the startup game ever since. And I really just my kids just laugh at me, because we go on vacation and I take books about marketing automation, or books about sales techniques, or leadership books. And I'm really just fascinated by the whole thing. And so I'm fortunate that I really enjoy working, which not everyone can say. I really do. It's sort of a hobby. I'm the person that have no desire to retire because I enjoy it too much. But if you look at my LinkedIn, I've just gone through a lot of different startups, where the first one was a company called iDefense that was arguably the first threat intelligence company that got acquired by VeriSign. And we started another company that was similar to that one, and just on through the ranks. And so I love what I do. I'm very fortunate. I'm lucky also that I have a broad network of people that I typically bring in to help me accomplish the goals, which, as I mentioned earlier, is just to drive shareholder value. And so, yeah, that's been my career. But I've been married for 31 years to my amazing wife, Liz. We have two children, a daughter who's 29 and a son who's 26. And I love to play golf, and that's pretty much me.
Yeah, it's a good story. I mean, like, it's a unique one. I mean, you started off in golf, then now you're in the software. So, who? I mean, do you have a mentor, I guess, who kind of egged you into software? I mean, I mean, like, is that kind of how that went? Is
Yeah,
something like that?
yeah. I would say I have two mentors. The first one was my manager at Titleist. He's a guy named Howard Nelson, and he was just brilliant. And he's also just a very good person. The second one is the guy named John Waters, and John was the CEO at the first two startups that I did, and has become a very, very close friend. And he went on to be the COO of Mandiant, which recently was acquired by Google for, I'm probably going to get this right, but 5.3 billion, I think, or something like that. And so he just really a smart person, and he's a very creative person. I love creativity. And again, he's a person who brings his morals to work every day. So I think we all have some sort of mentors. Then there's a more network outside of that. But I would say those are the two main mentors.
Nice. I mean, and then, like, so like, let's talk about a bit about outside of work. I mean, I know you're a big golf guy. I think Bo is he's a football player. Your son, right? Is that how it goes?
Yeah. Yeah. So our son Bo was So he played college football. He started his career at University of Central Florida, UCF. He's a quarterback, and was fortunate enough to get to start 4 games, I believe it was, on a 0-12 team. So he learned a little bit about adversity in his first year.
Yeah.
I won't drag you too deep into the story, but he transferred. He ended up playing quarterback at Texas A&M, and it was, I think I'll just say this: he recently got married. He'll be a better father, a better husband, and a better community leader for his experiences. I think it taught him a lot about not everything is guaranteed. Our daughter, Margot, she lives in Austin. She works for Indeed. You've probably seen the Indeed commercials.
Nice. Yeah, sure.
And she's she got the bad end of the stick. She's more like me. Our son Bo is more like my wife Liz, who's a very calm person. And so yeah, but I, as I said to you earlier, I love to play golf, and I don't get to play too much because I also love to work. But I have a Saturday morning group that I've been playing with for a long time at our club, and I like music, like a lot of us, and on the weekends we have a lot of really good friends, and we'll go out to eat or do a dinner party or something like that. And then I just, I'm looking over at the stack of books that I have. They're all about leadership. They're all the Challenger sales model, the 48 laws of power, the 33 strategies of war, radical candor, from impossible to inevitable, atomic habits, Trailblazer by Mark Benioff. I mean, I love those. I love to read like that. I'm reading a great book that I've read at least 10 times by an amazing author named Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. And if you haven't read it, it's fantastic. The reason I'm reading it is my wife was recently on a trip, and she and her friend stopped into a bookstore, and the author was there signing books. Wow. Yeah, she knew I was such a big fan. He's written several books, Ego is the Enemy, others. I really love to read and to think a little more broadly. And I think as we get older, I was very fortunate at CyberGRX to have a executive coach, and also did a lot of psychological testing and personality testing and surveys from my team and the rest of the organization. And if you haven't done that, Sajeel, it's terrifying. It really is. It's incredibly beneficial and incredibly terrifying. And the coach that I had was fantastic. One, my request, and I never wanted to hear any person's name. Hey, this person doesn't like you, or this person feels like, and he was very good about that. But the first thing that I had him as a coach for about 4 to 6 months before he ever revealed anything to me. And the first thing that he revealed to me, which I was super excited to hear, but also just terrified because I knew that it wasn't going to be everyone thinks you're awesome. The first thing that he told me is something that it's been a little bit of a life changer in a way. He said, you can be right without being righteous. And, that's a bit of a head scratcher for a minute, but it's, 20 seconds in, you realize what it means. And of course I said, okay, what do you mean? And he said, there are people who think that when you're in a dispute, or, your idea is this and their idea is this, that not only do you want to win the argument, but you also want to kind of dance on their grave. You want to, and I said, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to be that way at all. I can't believe it. Someone would think that about me. And he said, no, it's not just one person. There's a few. And so it was really impactful for me because it just helped me understand that, communication is everything, and making sure that, you don't put out that negativity is really important.
Scott, where can people connect with you and learn more about you and TrueFort?
Well, obviously TrueFort.com is a good resource. I'm obviously on LinkedIn, and I'm Scott.Schneider at TrueFort.com. If anyone wants to send me an email, Schneider is SCHNEIDER. I'd love to connect with other revenue leaders, marketing leaders, customer success leaders, RevOps leaders. And sometimes there's a real opportunity for us to work together down the road. Other times, just sharing ideas is fantastic. And so, as I told you earlier, I'm just really fascinated by this profession. And so, the more people I talk to, the smarter I think I become.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've this has been amazing. We've talked about golf. We've talked about, give a bunch of books to check out. I mean, we talked about your background, talked about how CISOs are very different than CIOs and other kinds of people. We talked about how marketing, how RevOps is very, very unique thing in terms of it's not just data scientists or analytics, it's also driving business decisions. So there's a lot of good information that Scott you shared with us today, and I just can't thank you enough for catching up with me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, Sajeel. Let's stay in touch, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks. And to anybody listening, if you learned something or laughed a little bit at Scott's jokes, tell someone about the show. And yeah, thanks again, Scott, for coming on.
Thanks, Sajeel.
This has been another exciting episode of RevOps 500, and we'll see you guys all next time. And that wraps up another episode of RevOps 500. Thanks for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at RevOps500.com. RevOps 500 is sponsored by CompuTech, providing technical and development expertise to growth-focused marketing.